Hey, welcome to this episode where we're going to discuss soul power and coming into the era of the power of love. So, we're coming out of the era of the love of power, which is where we were operating more from a misuse and abuse of power and based on a foundation of inequality and based on a foundation predominantly of codependency, actually. So, what we're coming into in our natural evolutionary unfolding on the planet as well as for humanity itself is we're now entering into literally a whole new era in a sense. And you know coming into a soul infused personality, what does that mean? So we've been talking a lot about that, and coming into a soul infused personality means that we're now starting to calm the ego, in the sense we don't want to eradicate the ego completely, because then we'll all just want to be in bliss all the time. We won't want to really actually, kind of contribute to life, learn, grow, or heal here on this experiential earth school. So what we're doing now as we enter into this new era is we're learning how to activate more of the positive ego, but allow the ego to start to serve the heart and the soul. Predominantly in our previous time, the ego was more forefront because we were in more survival consciousness. So the ego had to predominantly be forefront because the ego's main kind of purpose actually is to keep us alive. So now as we enter into this new era, we're becoming more heart-centered, and we're starting to now allow the soul to come forth more and guide. And as we start to tune more into our soul's resonance, our soul's guidance, that starts to activate our divine blueprint in a way that we've never really been able to tap into. At this level of being a conscious creator, and a co-creator, with spirit, with our soul's presence, with our soul's guidance. So it's actually a really exciting time, and it still probably for a lot of people feels very almost unbelievable, because we're still experiencing so much tumultuousness and so much struggle and so much suffering and so much violence on the planet. And so that's part of, we're in this very tumultuous in between period of time. And in the next few years, we're going to start to really see this new era coming in. And how this new era is really coming in is through us, through our own personal transformation. And then the more of us start to really awaken to that, awaken to, what really feels in alignment to our own personal truth, our own personal resonance, and what is really actually in the highest good for all beings, for humanity, and for all of the earth itself. So as we enter into this era of the power of love being soul power, we start to tap into a whole new experience and expression of power. So let's unpack power for a second, because one of the themes that's showing up for a lot of people is, if there's been a connection or a correlation to power, and it's a power that's associated with manipulation, abuse, coercion, injustice, codependency, where some are victimized and some are, kind of tyrannical leaders, then what happens is that we start to have an aversion on some level to power. Or if we step into power, sometimes we're not able to maintain that balance of power, or we fear our power. We fear who will become, or who we will be if we're actually in our power. So the invitation, if this resonates in any way, is to redefine what power means now to you at this time, in who you are and what you would feel power would be, meaning as it comes from the heart space. So think of it like this. Think of it, the evolutionary unfolding of humanity. It's like humanity was at its adolescence level, and now we're entering into young adulthood. So there's a whole new level of maturity. From the chakra systems, where we were operating predominantly from the previous era, from an imbalanced third chakra, and that's where there was this imbalance of, and still very kind of more dealing with, again, not right or wrong or good or bad, but dealing more with this lower elements, lower density on the planet. So as we start to come into this new era, what we're doing is we're now starting to come up as a whole humanity consciousness. We'll be coming into the heart chakra. We'll be activating the heart chakra. So not just individually, but as we do this individually, that's how we start to contribute and facilitate and support the awakening for others to be able to start to open up their heart space. So one of the most powerful things, honestly, we can do right now, in assistance with honoring our soul's resonance and listening to our own, what feels aligned for our own path and our own purpose, is really starting to actually really give energy to coming into the heart. So that could be just throughout the day, starting to be more aware of the heart space, coming in and breathing, into the heart more. There's a beautiful breath called heart breath, where you're just inhaling and exhaling through the nose, and it's you're imagining or feeling that the actual breath is in and out of the heart. Could be just placing your hand on your heart more. It's just about, coming from the heart. What would kindness do in this situation? What would love do in this situation? And that's all. And that definitely does not mean we're in codependency. Sometimes that means we need to establish more boundaries for ourselves so that we're not knocked off our center, knocked out of our sovereignty, not abused or manipulated. So again, we're learning how to really redefine what that means. And it begins with us individually and uniquely first. So as we start to evolve into this heart chakra kind of essence, then what's that power coming from love is considered really the true power. And the true power is because when we're truly in our heart space and we're truly honoring our soul's guidance, then the soul will never guide us to harm another being. And sometimes that can be confusing, because if we're setting our boundaries and we're not saying yes to somebody or giving somebody something they want, that can be perceived as unkind. But if it's operating from a codependent place, it's not actually kindness. It's considered, we're not actually serving that other person, and we're definitely not serving ourselves. So the more we come into being able to honor truly, authentically, coming from our own heart space and what that means for us uniquely and individually, and be able to start to live our lives and come into our expressions and our actions, into our relationships, all the things that we're relating to, when we can relate to it from our heart space, it's a huge game changer. And that's what we're entering into. So coming into this time and this era of power of love is very exciting. And I mean, it's almost unfathomable right now what we'll be experiencing down the road, because we're coming into such a huge change of consciousness, operating from this heart chakra versus the imbalanced third chakra. So again, invitation is, if this resonates with you, so your takeaway is redefine power. What does power mean? If power, and you might even want to make a list, power, imbalanced power from this previous place of inequality, of manipulation, or of imbalance, as an example, whatever that means for you, what would that look like? What did it look like? What is it still look like in certain places, or, within our own lives, or on the collective stage? And then if we were coming from our heart, what are the qualities, first of all, that resonate with you from the heart space? So that could be qualities of love, of kindness, of compassion. It could be, self-love, self-worth, all of it. So when we're coming from this place and we start to cultivate that more within ourselves, then we can start to, again, relate outward in everything that we're doing to that experience, to that expression. So personal power truly comes or originates because of this from our own self-awareness. So the more we can cultivate our self-awareness, the more we can step into our heart-centeredness, our sovereignty, which is us being connected to our heart power, our soul power. And in that, that's where we're transcending as well any polarity. So we're transcending beyond this right or wrong, good or bad, pass or fail. That's the previous paradigm was based on that principle, based on that concept. So as we start to now come into this true heart-centeredness, then we're actually transcending polarity, and we're coming into more of, we're coming into a different consciousness of love. And again, love can mean very different things for different people. So I don't want to go too deep into the consciousness of love in that sense. In this episode, It's just we are going to be operating from a very different place. That it can include compassion, that can include kindness, it can include creating and cultivating more harmony. And it again will, as we start to listen to our own truth, we start to contribute from that authenticity, and we support others to operate from their authenticity. And that's where we can be in freedom and also allow others to be in their freedom. And right there, that's starting to take out the judgment, starting to take out the polarity. So your takeaway is to ask yourself, what would it mean for me to become more aware throughout my day, and how does that relate to me in the sense of me coming into more of my personal power through self-awareness and through cultivating me kind of coming into more of my heart. And the invitation, the tip for you is practicing heart breath, or practicing slowing down throughout the day and just tuning in and just asking, like, where am I coming from here? And as I start to come into more of this heart-centeredness, how does that change the way I respond? How does that change the way I'm relating to somebody? So would I still relate the same way? And again, that doesn't mean we're dishonoring our own inner resonance and our own sense of center. It means that we're able to actually hold both. So the more we can truly know what our own personal truth is, and what I mean by that is our own personal inner resonance, what's our own personal center, then from that place, we're steady, we're grounded, we're strong, we're in that unshakably. That takes practice. It's a process to get to that place. And that's why when we cultivate self-awareness, tuning back in, how does this making me feel? How does this make my body feel? How's my breath in this situation? Am I contracting my body? Am I holding my breath? Am I relaxed? Am I open? Am I contracting and pulling myself back? Sometimes these are messages for us to know that certain energy or a certain conversation or a certain place isn't of resonance, or it's not, it's not in our highest good to be in that place or in that conversation. And sometimes it's just us becoming aware of, how much we are in protective mode. And when we do that, we close down our heart. And so starting to just, again, be aware, and then starting to be aware of when, how am I operating, and when am I expanding? When am I coming from my heart? When am I meeting somebody from that place, without ever forcing our love or our compassion or our kindness on somebody else? Just more holding that presence, coming from this one, coming from our own connection and alignment to that, and then just holding that presence and then speaking from that. So there's just a beautiful space that opens up, because again, there's this transcendence of judgment. So we're just allowing people to be where they're at, and simultaneously knowing, is this of resonance for us individually? And if it isn't, we just know it's not of resonance at this time, because that's my own inner guidance, and I must be guided to go to another path, but not making something or somebody else wrong because of it. And that includes to ourselves. It includes if somebody doesn't resonate with us or something that we're doing, then being able to just, be free with it and be okay with it, because we're allowing everyone to also be in their space and be where they're at, in their place, in their process, and in what feels good for them at the time. So the tip is to, really start to tune into the heart and navigate through, and really write out if this resonates, or think about, become clear moving forward. What would success mean to me? What would power mean to me? What would everything I relate to mean if I was operating from my heart versus my previous potential definition of power? What does that mean for me? And then maybe even setting a strong intention or declaration that moving forward, once I've created this clear map for myself or picture for myself of what this means for me, then intending or declaring, from now on, this is my version of power and my version of success, and this is how I choose to navigate through the world. This is how I choose to filter things that are coming through in my life. And this is how I'm choosing to show up for myself and for others. So we're coming into a very powerful time, and the invitation for us all is we're the ones in the body, so that we're really the ones on the ground here doing it and creating that. We're going to be creating this new earth through our own choices, one choice at a time, one step at a time, and it's often these little choices that truly do make a big difference, creating bigger change. And sometimes, yeah, it can be frustrating because we don't always see the impact or the power of what we're doing. And again, keeping in mind that what we give energy to grows. There's a lot of beautiful things happening right now. A lot of people awakening. A lot of people really starting to kind of care in a whole new, deeper way. And so the more we're starting to be open to that and able to see that and able to focus on that, the more we'll see it, and the more we're going to start to also give energy to and cultivate it. Because what we want to really start to be aware of now is we're not wanting to wait for the world to change. We now want to be the ones changing the world. So what would that mean? And again, it doesn't mean we have to go out and do anything. The most powerful thing from this perspective, this consciousness, is first of all coming into our own heart space, knowing our own truth, our own soul's resonance and guidance, and then with each action coming from that place, inspired action, choosing from that place, having the courage to act from that inner guidance. Most importantly, holding a presence and cultivating, holding a presence of compassion, or holding a presence of harmony, holding a presence of peace. And from there, powerful, beautiful, amazing things can happen. All right, so I hope you have an amazing day. Namaste.